On a more formal note, a warm welcome to all of you. Good evening. My name is Dilip Raghavan. Many of you would know me by my affiliation to Color Publications, which has actually been in the service of the chemical industry for the last 70 years and 3 generations. It is indeed a proud moment for me to be standing in front of all of you, industry captains, friends, and close associates, because even after these 70 years of our existence, when you thought there could not be a lot more excitement in your professional life, comes a time like this today when we proudly unveil the launching of Chemark.com. There will be a lot more said about it in detail in terms of what it actually means, what it stands for in terms of what it can do for the industry, and our commitment as a result of being the promoters of Chemark.com. But a quick background to why I stand here and where we intend to go ahead from here. As I said, having completed 70 years of service to the chemical industry, something that the chemical industry is actually the proverbial karma bhumi or the playground for us, and we're extremely happy to be a humble service provider to this industry. Having said that, we feel that there is an opportunity and a need for us as service providers to the chemical industry, and also the chemical industry that we serve in itself, to become more adaptive and receptive to new age technologies, particularly in the digital domain. So here we are with this launch of our latest offering called Chemark.com, and I'm pleased to introduce at this point in time my partner, Mr. Puneet Krishna. Puneet, where are you? Yeah. So Puneet is actually the catalyst. I'm a bit of a, let's say, the sophisticated visible face of everything, but he's the backbone, the solid engine that's actually been powering this initiative, and we will, of course, have him join us later. But I think I'd like to set the tone for the context of our launch of Chemark.com by quoting something that I have recently started believing in very strongly. Ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing stronger than an idea whose time has come. And I think the time for a service like Chemark to help the chemical industry, which is already very mature, already doing very well in itself, but still underutilizing its true potential, I thought the confluence of these two factors makes for a very fertile breeding ground for a platform like Chemark.com. And this is why we are happy to be here. We will pull out all stops, use our 70 years of experience, use all our contacts, all our domain knowledge, all our goodwill, and in doing so, hopefully deliver to you with Chemark.com a product that will be of immense utility to the chemical industry in India and globally in general. And also, one of the things that we would like to achieve is place the Indian chemical industry on a totally different pedestal compared to what it has achieved already so far. So with that little introduction, I'd like to once again thank all of you for being here. And there is always an auspicious start to every good beginning. And in our case, we could not think of any better way to herald the start of the proceedings for today than have our own dear Professor M.M. Sharma address us as the chief guest. So, Professor, while we request you to please step up, and Puneet, if you could please escort him, he has been introduced to such forums innumerable times. So I'm going to take the liberty of skipping the more formal introduction, but he is indeed a diamond of our industry. He is a Padma Vibhushan. He's been conferred the Padma Vibhushan by the Indian government. He is also a fellow of the Royal Society. And I think what makes him more proud than these things is the fact that he has been the youngest ever professor at the Institute of Chemical Technology. And of course, he also served at ICT as the director for 8 years. Personally, we've been associated with him for over half a century and across 3 generations. And he is truly a beacon, a father figure for all of us. And if we can all hope to emulate even a part of what he has done as a technologist, as a human being, I think we are all there on the path to glory. So, Professor Sharma, we are extremely honored to have you here, and we would kindly invite you to step up and share your thoughts on a subject that we thought would be appropriate for this forum, the next wave of innovation for the chemical industry. Professor Manmohan Sharma, ladies and gentlemen.
Let me start off by complimenting Dilip and Puneet for launching their new initiative. I think, there is a saying, no technology is ever mature. And chemical industry, a highly science-based industry, you have never had peace because processes have come which have changed fundamentals of business, whether it was acrylonitrile from propylene or it was butane to maleic anhydride, completely throwing out the old processes literally. You do remember the story that how propylene ammoxidation in early 60s brought down the price of acrylonitrile from 33 cents a pound to 11 cents, and brand new plant, since there are many of ICI people, they may not remember, brand new plant of ICI based on acetylene and SCN was FUT. Now, there have been many instances like this in the history of chemical industry. Since it is a highly science-based industry, you can certainly expect all the time some changes to come in. There were golden eras when ethylene chlorohydrin process for ethylene oxide and glycol got replaced by direct oxidation of ethylene. And as we keep on advancing, it becomes increasingly difficult to come out with real innovative processes. So I made an attempt to tell you where I expect certain things to happen. One of the largest non-catalytic processes in the world today is naphtha cracking. So the selectivity, in spite of the best optimization software, is not good. So ethylene plus propylene, the yield is something like maximum of the order of 55% or so. I see great potential for naphtha cracking to be done catalytically to get much higher yield of ethylene and propylene. That is one area where a non-catalytic process might get replaced by a catalytic process. Just as cat cracking is now operated not so much for diesel or gasoline, in India earlier for gasoline, in US mostly for gasoline, India for diesel, but now cat cracker is operated in petrochemical mode. In compliments to IOC, like Chinese, they have come out with cat cracking leading to yield of propylene to over 20%. I expect future plants to go up to even 30%. So you will be doing cat cracking not for fuels, but for petrochemicals. You will see example of this in Paradeep when there are 700,000 tons propylene, polypropylene plant will come ex-propylene from cat cracking. Remember, Reliance is only at 11%, and this yield of propylene from cat cracking with in-house technology of IOC will be in excess of 20%. But one would go a step further, and there is a great chance that we would have direct cracking of light crudes to start with. Remember that Shell had this multi-feed crackers based even on gas oil, but there is a clear trend that we might be able to crack directly at least a light crude, so you don't have to fractionate the light crude. Later on, it might even move to heavier crude, but I expect light crude. Now, ammonia, as you all know, was 1910s, getting Nobel Prize, Haber and Bosch both. Bosch is the only engineer who got a Nobel Prize. I expect some major change in this once we are able to bring down a catalyst which will lower the temperature. Ammonia flow sheet will change. It has changed over the years from 14 million kilocalories per ton. It has come down to well below 7 now, but there will be further changes. And this propels me to tell you, just as in the entire computing system and the kind of prowess that this little gadget has, thanks to the produce of chemical industry, so many things you can do in this. I feel there will be this trend for minimization of chemical industry. And pharma industry is an outstanding example. which mostly has been operating on batch processes, large number of these will move on to continuous processes, either through microreactors or a battery of microreactors. And this also has blessings of FDA, because then you have consistency of product, and FDA prefers to give approval for the drug candidate drugs coming out through continuous processes. All through, right, including final crystallization, all in continuous mode. Now, trends of this kind will keep on coming every now and then, but I want to talk about a combo systems, whether it is pet coke gasification, which we are yet to see the first major one in Jamnagar. That will be one of the greatest achievements globally, because they would be doing IGCC of 10 million tons of pet coke with all sulfur recovery. What I want to say, what will happen in future, since you can do underground gasification of coal, particularly those coals which are incapable of mining, like in North Gujarat, in Mehsana. Now they are environmentally very good because no ash is coming out. Otherwise, we have a big problem of ash utilization from coal-based thermal power stations. When you underground gasification, there is no such problem. But then this gas, syngas, allows you to have power generation linked with Fischer Tropsch. But more and more Fischer Tropsch will not be operated for fuels, like getting diesel with cetane number more than 70, but they will work in the direction of petrochemical mode, in part as done by Sasol. So you will get olefins, pentene, hexene, then you can get odd number carbon atoms, olefins, you can get pentene, heptene, which you cannot get in ethylene oligomerization. Even ethylene oligomerization will see some new trends by which high selectivity, when you want hexene, you will get only hexene, predominantly hexene, or you will tailor make the catalyst to get octene. And if you want to go to higher olefins, then you will cut off something beyond C20. That is yet another one. But I see, for example, if you want to dream, what can be a distributed ammonia plant? It could be based on solar power. It will then do electrolysis, get hydrogen. You will have power because of solar, and you might have only few tons in different locations in the country, because what is important is not a large-scale ammonia plant, but the delivered cost of ammonia or a fertilizer based on ammonia. Now, if you don't link this ammonia to urea and not go through the entire whole refrigeration cycle and take this ammonia from ammonia reactor and make ammonium phosphate and all, not only you have distributed system, your capital cost comes down drastically. I see a possibility of such configurations coming in coming years. The chemical industry has always seen all kinds of remarkable development. And I don't want to touch upon new drugs that would come for whether it's for some types of cancer, just like we had this major breakthrough in hepatitis C with Gilead, first year, second year profit 70% of the turnover, the drug costing all-time high ever in the history of pharmaceutical industry, about $14 billion. So pharma will continue to see innovations. That's the only industry where some companies spend 16 to 18% of the turnover on R&D. So therefore, you can expect major breakthroughs also in the concomitant process chemistry. Let me give you one example. When glyphosate of Monsanto gave them 40%, 40, of their turnover, immunodiacetic acid was made by a hazardous technology. It was then made by a very clean technology of Rennie copper-based oxidation or dehydrogenation of diethanolamine. Look at what a dramatic change came, because you could make immunodiacetic acid from diethanolamine and no question of using any cyanide. Extending it further, in India also I see like what Dr. Gharda was able to do for many things, right from halogen blue to non-phosgene based isoproteron. Today isoproteron may be unwanted there is a history that some products which are highly wanted become unwanted later on, whether it was DDT or BSC. Remember, there are some ICI people remember how powerful was BSC once upon a time, Gamaxin, all that kind of stuff. Now, we will see also on engineering side, very extensive application of membrane separations. The most notable, I'm not referring to simple RO. Please bear in mind today, every, the laity knows what is RO. They may not know the full name of RO, but even a Panipuri wala will tell you his water is RO water, but I'm talking of nanofiltration. That all molecules about 250 molecular weight. Future might see molecular weight going down as low as 150. So you will do all these separations using membranes which can even stand DMF. They are already in the market, and many more such products will come which will change the dynamics. Take a pharma industry where dilutions are like easily 10 times, sometimes 20 times. Why should that solvent be recovered by distillation and in that process also lose your active molecule? The solvent can be recovered through nanofiltration. I see this trend getting strengthened, and you will find many such recoveries of solvent, anti-solvent through membrane separations, predominant part of it rather than. Then I want to move what new things will happen. There's a lot of this talk going on about renewable raw materials. I sometimes feel it's a bit of humbug. Not even 10% of the hydrocarbons are going for petrochemicals. So if you take total crude oil plus natural gas, say 5.5 billion tons per annum globally, then where is the room? And the fuel consumption for transportation is going to come down with the advent of electric cars and all. So people are already getting worried, where will gasoline go? So we have a ready answer that naphtha cracker becomes more and more efficient. It becomes far more attractive than ethane cracking, because then in naphtha cracking you get butadiene, isoprene, so many things you get out of naphtha cracking which you never get out of ethane cracking. What else can happen? The biggest thing that can happen, I would presume it may happen within 10 years, is the exploitation of natural gas hydrates, what we call fire on ice. There's a nickname for natural gas hydrate. India has done prospecting. Globally, the proven reserves of natural gas hydrates are far, far greater than proven reserves of natural gas. But it is an engineering challenge how to get this natural gas hydrate out. And there is a little success in Japan and China, but I expect this to happen in the coming years. And I do feel that there will be some major breakthrough in this area, whether it's through depressurization or collecting carbon dioxide from the thermal power stations, whether based on natural gas or coal, compress that and use that to depressurize so that natural gas hydrate thermodynamically is broken and natural gas comes out. Otherwise, I think the amount of natural gas, so there will be a lot of business in the world through natural gas, wherever pipelines can be put pipeline. Otherwise, the LNG transport, LNG business will probably go to 500, 600 million tons in coming years. And there is continuous improvement in the cryogenic engineering. The tragedy in India is all the LNG terminals have no utilization of the refrigeration. I think the most stupid way of putting LNG plants in India. I have voiced this opinion in many forums, but less said the better. I will refrain from making some strong sentences for this. I would also see very good future for electrosynthesis because they are very benign. Nothing is cleaner than electrons. And if you can use the ingenuity of electrochemistry, where both cathodic and anodic reactions are done simultaneously, like what BASF did. You make halide on one side, and you can do even NaClAldehyde on the other side. And this becomes clean, and this is a distributed system in the sense the scale-up is not a problem. You keep on putting up multiple cells. The big advantage of electrochemical processes is scale-up is not a problem. If you are proved in one scale, remember how Bayer was able to do and commercialize HCl electrolysis to hydrogen and chlorine, so that HCl disposal problem can vanish. And I would see, even in India, in coming years, more HCl electrochemically being converted to hydrogen and chlorine. Otherwise, a lot of companies are struggling to find market for chlorine. Lastly, I want to speak about biotransformation. This is undergoing dramatic change. And I'm not referring only to lactic acid and all, or succinic acid. I'm talking of far more complicated biotransformation. One such instance where semi-commercial unit is operating elsewhere in the world is vanillin via fermentation. Nut ketone has been done, farnesene has been done. I see great potential for many. If nature can do it, there is no reason why we can't train the bugs to do it. So I expect many things will be done by biotransformation, using renewable raw material, but doing very, very complicated synthesis. Remember, even today, there is no hope of making penicillin other than fermentation. There is no hope of citric acid facing competition from any petrochemical process. There is no hope of lysine facing competition. People who put up like DSM synthetic lysine plant based on caprolactam went fat. So I see very bright future for, just as in drugs, biosimilars are coming center stage. But I am referring more to chemical industry directly by way of biotransformations making head. What is the use of fermenting molasses to only ethanol? Go to isobutanol, go to many other products which give far better return than just plain alcohol. So we will continue to see all kinds of remarkable progresses. Now I come to the topic of the day, because Dilip wanted me to say something about some flavor of the kind of new processes that might come in, and I want to restrict myself. First of all, I do want to once again compliment. Now, how minimalization has taken place, I demonstrated that how our mobile phone is able to do such complicated things which we couldn't even dream 5 years ago. That how many years ago, petroleum refineries had a software for online profit optimization, Fantastic software. So the kind of this digitalization that is coming, I remember trying to get a computer many years ago in ICT, occupying a whole big room. By the time we managed to get it from US, which was being gifted to us by Goodrich, because they moved on to the next generation, it was dead, because just on a tabletop you could get the same capability. Now today you can get in highly miniaturized form. So this digitization that our Dilip and Puneet are willing to, I personally see a very bright future for this, because you will have a lot of very good internal opportunities. You will, but the only problem that I face is now people say I have on my mobile Google. It has led to fellows not having any memory. And then what happens that you're not able to orchestrate different strengths. I've seen, since I consult, I make a living consulting. I've seen people who say, oh, let me see in Google. I said, then you are dealing with this chemical, you can't remember even that. Now, what else will you remember then? I mean, look like a very harsh comment, but this is what it has led to. It's a great strength, but you must use it very judiciously. And don't lose the track. It's like doing some mental calculation, otherwise you will end up in using calculator for 2 + 2 = 4, that kind of thing. So they are going to launch this program. You will hear much more about this in a more articulate way from Puneet. But I am quite enamored. Just as printing has changed dramatically, I remember in old days, now you just put on computer. I think for Dilip, printing articles has become so much easier than in old days. You had to set. It was a long process. It has become, so that was something already established. But in coming days, you will see this whole kind of venture that CAMARC, I think is a nice name, acronym they have given. And I see You know, there was a reference in the note given to me by Puneet, my dear friends in Asian Paints, that how long ago the computerized color matching was introduced, and that how much undeclared internal opposition was there. In any adoption of new technology, the old guards will first try to oppose. And there is another peculiar disease in India. Whenever you come out with a totally new idea, the management asks, has anybody done it before in the world? I said, it's a fatal disease. I get very annoyed. I said, I have given an idea. We have worked on it. How are you concerned whether anybody has done it? You look at this in the merits of the case. So this is one of the reasons why, two reasons why we are not able to innovate sufficiently in India. First is, we have no culture of owning innovations, failures. We have no culture of owning failures. Two, we have this fatal disease that we can't be the first one in the world. In fact, Government of India enterprises have a clause when they ask for tender that they will only adopt the technology which has already been practiced in some operating plant. As if you can't be the first one to adopt a technology which some company in the world has developed. So ladies and gentlemen, it's a wonderful evening. Dilip and Puneet have managed to get together on the eve of Ganpati Day. It's augurs well because this will take care of overcoming all the vignas. So I wish you all the success, Dilip and Puneet.
Thank you so much, Professor Sharma. When we conceptualized the program for today, there was a school of thought as to whether we should light the traditional lamp, because after all it is a knowledge-based forum and a true Indian culture. The traditional way of doing this is by lighting the traditional lamp to invoke the gods of learning. But we thought when we have somebody like Professor Sharma in between amongst us, his erudite oration, his flow of talks, his experience over the years it's enough to light up 1,000 lights by itself. So we thought that would be a much more appropriate way to do it. Professor Sharma, thank you so much for being here. We have a panel which would now, I would like to convene and I'd like to set it up. The theme of the panel, of course, true to the flavor for today, is digital transformation in the chemical industry. And we are really privileged to have very senior representatives from various walks of life, predominantly, of course, from the chemical industry, who would be sharing their experience, their vision, their expectations, and of course, even the challenges that they foresee with this. It's an open-ended discussion that we would have, and we have senior representatives, as I said, from large chemical companies, from users of chemicals, from the consulting discipline, also from the venture capital space, because these are, it really is the new technology, and we are seeing a lot of venture capitalists jumping into the fray, and it would be interesting to hear their perspective. And of course, we also have the academia, because the academia and the research fraternity is a very, very important fraternity which we would like to showcase our commitment to at all times. So I would take the liberty of most respectfully inviting our panel members onto the stage one by one in alphabetical order. And if I could first invite Mr. Adnan Ahmed to please join us on stage. Mr. Adnan Ahmed, I'm going to make the introductions very brief because we have to, of course, there's so much to say about them, but we'd rather listen to them speak rather than listening to me speak about them. So Adnan Ahmed, very quickly, is a chemical engineer with 32 years of industry experience in leading companies such as BP and ICI. By qualification, he's completed his master's in chemical engineering from Queen's University, Canada. He has a strong track record of business leadership and performance delivery in complex global organizations. And of course, he is here today, gracing this forum today in his capacity as the Managing Director of Clariant Chemicals India Limited. A round of applause for Adnan, please. I'd like to also call upon Ashish Shetty. Ashish has been with Asian Paints for the last 25 years and has worked in various roles and functions in this period. Having started his career in IT, he's worked up his way across a plethora of applications like manufacturing, logistics. He has also been instrumentation in the transition of Asian Paints to packaged applications and the adoption of ERP. He has been a part of the leadership team and is currently working in the supply chain strategy in Asian Paints and scaling of operations with robust process to ensure reliability and quality of delivery. He is, of course, currently the VP of Supply Chain there. And by qualification, he did his graduation in Engineering and Computer Sciences and his MBA in Operations Management. Ladies and gentlemen, Ashish Shetty. I'd like to invite Dr. Raman Ramachandran to please join us. Dr. Raman Ramachandran is the Chairman and Managing Director of BASF India Limited. He is also the head of BASF in South Asia. He has over 26 years of diversified experience in research, operations, new market development, and strategic planning. He has been with BASF since 2000 and held several senior management positions. He has also won the Robert McNamara Fellowship of the Economic Development Institute of World Bank in 1990. So, Dr. Raman Ramachandran, pleased to have you here. If I could call upon Mr. M. Ramesh. Ramesh is a director and founding partner of McKinsey's locations in Chennai and Bangalore. He co-leads the operation practice in India and Asia and works with leading companies and industry associations to realize the full potential of India's manufacturing sector. He has led a major McKinsey knowledge initiative on global trends in sourcing manufactured goods from low-cost countries. By qualification, he is an MBA from the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, and a Bachelor of Technology in Metallurgical Engineering from IIT Mumbai. His interests include work, contributions to non-profit organizations in the areas of education and disability. Mr. Ramesh, thank you. If I could invite Mr. Sandeep Singhal. Sandeep co-founded Nexus Venture Partners in 2006, along with other successful entrepreneurs. And he brings a vast, rich experience of investing experience with him. Nexus currently has over $1 billion under management and is the leading early-stage investor in India, with an active portfolio in over 65 companies across predominantly the technology space. Prior to Nexus, Sandeep has been an entrepreneur and was the co-founder and CEO of Medicend Solutions, one of the leading healthcare outsourcing companies in India. He is also co-founder and managing director of eVentures India, started in 1999. By qualification, he has an MBA with distinction from the Wharton School with a dual major in finance and marketing and a BS in electrical engineering from Stanford University. Sandeep, pleasure to have you here. As I mentioned, we are very pleased to have Deputy Director of IIT Mumbai, Professor A.K. Suresh. If you could request him to join us, please. Professor Suresh, he's an institute chair professor with the Department of Chemical Engineering and currently the Deputy Director at IIT Mumbai. He has also had work stints at Hindustan Lever Research in industrial R&D, and besides engaged in teaching and research, he has held important administrative responsibilities such as Chairman Gate Western Region, Head of Chemical Department at IIT Mumbai, and has also been the Dean of Faculty Affairs at IIT Mumbai. He has had various accolades in the academic space, including stints at various leading universities, and of course a plethora of research credits to his name, which I will conveniently tide over so that we can get on with the panel. Last but not the least, pleased to invite Puneet Krishna, whom I already briefly introduced to you. He is of course the co-founder of Chemac and is also serving as the CEO, driving forward its vision for the chemical industry. He has worked for over 16 years in the chemical industry in companies like ICI and Atul in diverse functions. After chemicals, he moved to venture capital at eVentures India and then into investment management at Comcraft Singapore, where he was involved in establishing several companies from scratch. By qualification, he has a BTech in mechanical engineering from IIT Kanpur and has completed the advanced management program from the Harvard Business School. So we have a very eclectic panel from diverse streams who would all be sharing with us their perspectives and knowledge on the theme of the panel today, digital transformation in the chemical industry. I think it would be appropriate if we allowed Puneet to take center stage to begin with so that he could set the tone for the proceedings and then allow our very erudite panelists also to share their views thereafter. So Puneet, the stage is yours.
Hello. Thank you, Dilip, and thank you, eminent members of the panel, for making the time. Also, thank you, everybody, for making the time to join us in celebrating our launch today. A special word of thanks to Dr. M.M. Sharma as well for agreeing to inaugurate the function and be the keynote speaker. Now, coming to our topic on the panel, I thought I'll just set the ball rolling by kind of talking a little bit about digital transformation, which has been the buzzword in industrial circles for a while. It's a much talked topic, and most people are engaged on digital transformation. Now, in simple words, I would say it's a substantive adoption of the internet, telecom, hardware, software combination in the conduct of business. And these technologies have progressed and developed and are continually progressing so much that they have opened up multiple opportunities, great opportunities of doing things in the business which couldn't be thought of before. So I would say that at a high level, there are three things that these technologies make happen. First, it's better information, substantially better delivery of information, churning of information, and making use of information. The second is better connectivity, and the third is better collaboration. And because of all these three together, companies can improve their internal operations substantially. They can also, improve their customer engagements substantially, and they could devise new business models, like probably some of our panelists will share what they are doing to achieve much greater value for their organizations. So there is a great value to be achieved through adopting digital technologies and actually going digital and going digital in a substantial way. And it's not just about the gain. I think if companies do not do that, they'll be left behind. And it's not just about gaining, but actually missing the boat completely and possibly facing an existentialist crisis because they would just lose their competitive position because others will. So I think I would say that there is no option but to achieve, but to go for the digital thing, and I'm sure everybody is thinking about it, if not doing it already. Now, traditionally, high technology, banking, insurance, and industries like that, even retail, telecom, they have been at the forefront of digital adoption more than some others. And they have been actually achieving all-round results in all the three dimensions which I mentioned: internal operations, customer engagement, and new business models, and therefore delivering significantly more value for themselves. Manufacturing industry in general, and I would say chemical industry in particular, have been largely focusing on internal improvements through digitization, and therefore gaining through that, but not as much as they could. So there is a lot of untapped potential to be harvested, particularly for the manufacturing industry and the chemical industry. And so therefore, the chemical industry, people are here, needs to think strongly about what they need. And I would say it's a two-step thing in transformation. One is to choose the digital initiatives. There is a host of things that can be done in many ways, in different ways, to select what is right for them. And another thing, which is probably equally or even more important, is the change management, which Dr. Sharma was referring to. It's not just about a nice idea or a nice gadget or a nice system that can do wonders, but the people who will adopt it, the manner in which they'll adopt it, and the value that will be driven about it. So it's about two things. Digital transformation, in summary, it's about two things. The first is choosing the digital alternatives or options or initiatives for the organizations. And the second, the change management and the processes and the organizational issues that companies must find ways out. We are privileged to have a very eminent panel of practitioners of digital transformation with rich experience of doing it themselves or advising people to do it or seeing people do that and helping people do that from an investing perspective. And it would be wonderful to hear from you what you do and learn from it and gain from it as we each chart our own paths to digital transformation. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Puneet. I'd like to invite the views of Dr. Raman Ramachandran from BASF, because we know for a fact that BASF has actually been at the forefront of pioneering digital transformation within the chemical industry, and we have seen it from the outside. It will be nice to hear it as a first-hand account from him as to how digital transformation has allowed BASF to leverage the full utilization of its potential.
So first of all, Dilip and Puneet, thank you and congratulations on this great initiative, the launch of the ChemArt. And I think, you set the stage very well by saying that, if you do not adopt this, you will probably become a dinosaur and the competitive advantage will soon vanish and you will be left behind. Now, chemical industry also has not been pioneer in this, and I think there are specific reasons, because we have, as Professor Sharma so eloquently pointed out, catching up with improvements, already is a great area for investment. And any digitization also requires specific investments, not only in hardware, but also software and skill development. And so there is a choice of where do you put those resources? Do you put the resource to build another plant or put another vessel to increase capacity, or do you put that into digitization? I think this is, but if you don't do it, as you said, we will be left behind. So BASF has been in the forefront, and the forefront is actually in 2015. We launched what we call as the BASF 4.0, which is BASF's version of Industry 4.0, looking at how can we take automation and exchange of data for internal efficiency, not just manufacturing and beyond manufacturing. So maybe let me now give you 5 areas where we have been focusing on through digital to improve efficiency and transform. The first, of course, you know that BASF is an R&D based company. We spend 2 billion euros in research, 10,000 people working in research and development across the world, and we are also very proud that we now have a R&D center here in Mumbai, where about 150 scientists today, hopefully double that in about 4 to 5 years working. So this is the first area where we look at digitization helping to transform. Conventionally, in all the labs, the lab books are, manual ones, maybe spreadsheets today, but in most of the new laboratories and across BASF today, we don't use those conventional notebooks. We use DigiLab notes. And if you think about it, 10,000 people working across the world, millions of data that is being generated, and in the lab notes, they remain in the hands of one person, maybe in one group. And today, suddenly you have the power of bringing this data across a whole group of people and doing all kinds of analytics and coming up with virtual experiments, which was probably not possible in the past, in addition to the real experiment. So this is a great step forward that we believe is going to transform the way the research is being done. And in order to help this whole process, BASF has also seriously invested into a supercomputer. We have a new computer which is actually the 65th most powerful supercomputer out of the top 500 computers in the world. It's been even also given a name called Curiosity. And this computer, we hope, will be able to really be the backbone of digitizing R&D and coming out with newer and newer concepts and products and services. So that's on the R&D side. The second piece is on the manufacturing side, and manufacturing side essentially in improving efficiency, effectiveness, and also safety. And here, 2 examples that I would like to illustrate is, one is where we are using digitization for predictive maintenance. So there is a lot of sensor-based data that is collected in real time, and this is then analyzed, and this allows us to really make predictive maintenance in our manufacturing plants, which reduces failures, reduces unplanned shutdowns. So a great way of improving efficiency there in manufacturing plants. The second area is reality AR, as it is called. And here, essentially, if you are a maintenance engineer and you're walking across your plant, in the old days, you will do your manual checking and then you will write it down, come back, translate it into a spreadsheet. Today, you go there and you basically show your phone or your iPad, you show the camera on to, let's say, the pump that you're investigating, and it pulls up a virtual reality image of that pump with all the data of when was this last checked, when was the seal changed, what you should be looking for, and who did the checking last. And this is then seamlessly integrated into the backend platform, which again allows you to really improve your efficiency. So this is on the manufacturing side. The third one, of course, is the conventional supply chain area, where through cloud ERP computing, we are trying to seamlessly integrate vendors and suppliers and customers. Actually, I'm very proud to say that our organization today, 50% of our transactions with our customers happens on a web-based platform. And this, the whole process of purchase order and invoicing is now more or less automated with tremendous efficiencies on the customer service front and also on the sales front. Because I mean, it is still classic in India. If you travel with a sales guy during the peak season, most of his time is occupied on the phone, either chasing the supply chain guy as to where the product is, or chasing the customer service, have you raised the invoice? And I think this is completely getting slowly eliminated. And we are, as BSF India, leading the pack even in Asia Pacific, even within BSF, in adopting this technology, not just with sophisticated customers, even with rural customers, with distributors of our ag business, for instance, we are starting to do this. So this is the supply chain. Of course, needless to say, the business model one, where, okay, we don't have any radical examples here, but we are starting to use digital platforms more and more for communication into remote areas. I think the classic example, again, I would say our ag business, they do now a lot of their communication with farmers purely through, digital modes. They actually had a launch of a new product in Himachal Pradesh for Apple, completely based on Facebook training programs and WhatsApp interactions with the farmers, etc. Third area in terms of business model, but this is kind of evolving, and I must say that in the chemical industry, because many of those areas are sort of regulated, I think this is an area where we haven't really made too many progress yet, but this is a prime area for transformation. Lastly, I think what digitization today also allows, particularly with the digital media that you have, we are at the end of the day industry that is where environment, health, and safety standards have to be adopted, a very high level of safety standard. I want to give you two very quick examples of how digitization is helping us. Given the road conditions in India, transportation of dangerous goods in India is a very, very difficult activity. We now, along with 4 other companies under the auspices of ICC, have launched a program called Nicer Globe, which allows all our vehicles carrying dangerous goods, which are GPS enabled, to be on this web, and this is monitored real time in our disaster control center. And God forbid that any accident should happen, this basically the web page tells you where is the nearest police station, where is the nearest hospital, where is the nearest crane, because if you have a tanker and the tanker overturned, the first thing you need to be looking for is where is the nearest crane of the sufficient capacity that can come and upload. So this is we've been using this now for 2 years, and we find this of very great value. We are trying to really get more and more people to adopt this. We are talking to the government to endorse this, because I think this is really a transformation of how safely you can transport goods on the Indian roads. Last example, I think most of you know that we had this unfortunate incident with BSF late last year, where one of our pipelines, ethylene pipeline, got accidentally broken, which resulted in a blast, and 4 or 5 people died. Within 22 minutes of the accident happening, we had media coverage on all of our social platform explaining what was happening. I think this received a lot of accolades from the regulatory authorities and public with the forthrightness with which you are able to now communicate in the event something goes wrong. So with that, I think I've already taken up a lot of time, but I thought these were the few examples that I wanted to share on how BSF is trying to use this technology. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Raman. I think that's exactly the kind of thought leadership and let's say, the path leading thoughts that we were looking at to emerge so that it could hopefully energize us and motivate us as the general chemical industry to also adopt and move ahead. It will only be in our benefit. I'd like to move track to Ramesh. In your role at McKinsey and otherwise also you have by your own admission, helped shape businesses in terms of improving their operations and improving other areas of this business. So from, let's say, a so-called outsider's perspective, we'd like to hear how you have seen the digital transformation impact other industries and what you might think it could hold for the chemical industry.
See, I think it's no doubt a trend, right, for exactly the three reasons that were said before. Lots of computing power, lots of data, low-cost communication. So it is something that is happening. Though one thing I do see is that the more things change, the more things stay the same, right? I want to talk a little bit about what stays the same. I think there's no dearth of what they call use cases. I think you go industry after industry, there are examples of use cases. I feel like the need for prioritization based on business impact remains quite central. Otherwise, it becomes a little bit of a kid in a candy store syndrome. I can try this, and I can try that, and I can try that, without a razor-sharp focus on value. And how does that value translate? So one thing I'm seeing is how do we prioritize from the plethora of things that are possible. The second is, I think change management is not being emphasized sufficiently. And I was just giving Sandeep the example that within the close confines of this room, there are lots of game-changing technologies that we've had. I personally think that ride-sharing, for instance, has been extraordinarily good for the consumer. Because now within a few hundred meters of your home, you can know if there are 3 cars or 5 cars or 7 cars. And obviously for the consumer, it's important to have it. But then there's another stakeholder in it, which is the cab driver, for whom the incentives work slightly differently. So if there are too many cabs, then it doesn't work. And we saw some backlash against that. So looking at all constituents and figuring out what is required. For instance, it makes no sense to track workman productivity. So if you want to put a device on workman, which some distributed industries are looking at, I know of sales forces where you can almost map whether a sales person called on the customers they were supposed to, whether they spent the time that was required with the customer, and whether they... Now, this is not directly in the immediate interest of the salesperson to do. So therefore, there will be a backlash. There will be ways to sort of circumvent it. And I've seen that happen, right? People will switch off and say, I was not in coverage zone, or I ran out of battery, or I ran out of this. And so that whole element of change management, that's what I'm saying. This is a perennial challenge, and that frankly creates a role for people like us to create a more balanced view of transformation, saying what is the business impact that you're chasing and what is the change management challenges that are there. And therefore, if we blend all of this together, I think we are on the beginning of something. Someone once said that almost every technology invariably sort of overestimates the short-term impact and underestimates the long-term impact in the time that it is introduced. And I feel we are going through a little bit of that here, and there'll be a median that will settle down where some of these come in. But there's no denying that there is a lot of potential to be unlocked. And I'll give you just one example from the automotive industry that I'm intimately familiar with. Many, many years ago, before Japanese manufacturing became the new way of life, there used to be a process of changing a die in an assembly line. That process used to take 2 hours and 48 minutes. So when you're changing from one product to the other, you take out the die, you put the die and all that. They brought it down to a minute. It was called the single minute exchange of die. And it became, with people from all over the world went to see how a Japanese factory would do a single minute exchange of die. And they went back and they couldn't change a die in a minute because obviously you need the physical process of changing the die, but you need the skill and the mindset of the people who do it, I mean, which you can't see when you see it from a gallery. And you need the management orientation and the top management support to do it, which you don't see when you see a shop floor. So I'm sure that this is on the verge of something very special. It is going to change. And in India, we have the opportunity to leapfrog. I think that's one thing I would say, that for a long time, I've spent time in the manufacturing industry saying this has been neglected in this country. Manufacturing is not contributing its fair share to GDP. It's not contributing the fair share of employment, and hopefully with some of these technologies and with the impending manufacturing boom, because as the economy grows, there'll be more consumption of manufactured products. As Make in India takes root, there'll be more manufacturing in India. Hopefully we use this to leapfrog. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Very valuable. Thank you so much. Given the kind of straddle that Adnan has had with his geographical expertise as well as his industry segmented expertise, we'd be curious to know how he sees digital transformation in our industry's context.
Thank you, Dilip. Firstly, let me just start off by saying it was a real pleasure to listen to the opening presentation by Professor Sharma. So thank you for that. So let me just start by saying, if you just step back and think about what is transformation? So transformation could be different things to different people. And I know there's a young lady, Ria, sitting over the back there. Hi, Ria. And I don't know whether what I call transformation is transformation for her. She's just going into college. So let me just share with you, transformation is things which are really jaw-dropping, something that's really big. And, in the digital area, there's a number of them. So if you look at the world's largest taxi provider, they don't own a single vehicle. If you look at the world's largest accommodation provider, they don't own any real estate, right? Airbnb. And if you look at the largest retailer, chemical retailer as well, they don't have any inventories in Alibaba. So these are things that are really transformational, and they use the digital space. For me, this is transformational, but for a lot of younger people who are coming into the workspace today, this is the new normal. So transformation, you got to use that phrase a little carefully. Probably all of us with our experience sitting on the stage, some of the things that we see as transformational, new kids coming in today might not see that. But we will make an effort nevertheless. The other thing I would say about digital transformation is it's hugely empowering. And the reason I say it's empowering is because it makes information available much more easily. Whereas earlier, you needed a lot of infrastructure. If you go back 20, 30 years when a lot of us started our careers, to get that information, you had to go to libraries, you had to access documents, books. So it was a geographical thing. It depended on where you were, whether you had access to that knowledge. And today, it's empowered everybody with your little phone or with a tablet. And there is a tragedy in all this, that perhaps, as far as digital transformation is concerned, the chemical industry got a bit left behind. Although when I listen to my colleague here, it seems like we're leaps and bounds ahead. But the things that we hear about in the chemical industry, and Professor Sharma was talking about lots of stuff, shows you that the chemical industry has been very innovative. And digital transformation is nothing but innovation, just in a different field. So we've had the ability to be really innovative, but it hasn't been focused in the area of digital transformation. And there are now lots of efforts to do that. And I'm really delighted to be here today because of the product that Dilip and Puneet are putting out is just one glimpse of that, of empowering more and more people, just making it a level playing field, whether you're a big organization or small, you're a small customer or a big institution, doesn't matter, because it's just a click away. So those are the kind of things that I think just make the industry richer, just make society richer, when you can use digital transformation like that. So in Clariant, there are some examples as well. I've seen some of the stuff that we've done on production management systems, where you've got ERPs that are closing the gap with shop floor, shop level processes and so on, helping us manage complexity that in the past we couldn't have imagined, at the efficiency that we can do today, giving us the quality expectation that we can have today, which would have been a real struggle maybe 20 or 30 years ago. It also allows us to depend less on individuals. It'll never take away experience and expertise, but it allows the new generation of people coming in to pick up speed very quickly. There's another thing we have called Global Business Services. A lot of you have probably got that as well, where we run global processes from our offices in Mumbai. And it's magical when you see that. I mean, somebody's doing a transaction in one corner of the world, and we've got these people sitting in Mumbai managing the whole thing. And it ensures that you need to train just a small pool of people in one location rather than all around the world. Every time you want to roll out a change, you do it with a small group of people. So the whole management of change becomes simpler, and it is a bit transformational. I mean, it's a bit like your 2.5 hours going to 1 minute kind of thing, where you'd have to travel the world to train people, and now you just walk into one room, do it there, and bang, the change happens. So, these are things that allow us to move forward as well. And I'm tempted to share with you an example from a previous life in another company on road safety, where we did this. It was in India, and we did journey risk management and so on. So as far as the driver was concerned, the driver was absolutely clear. He knew which roads to take. He knew what the hazards were. Lights would pop up, which would tell him. So he knew when to slow down. He knew when he'd driven 4 hours, then he needed a break. And then when he reached his destination, somebody at the destination could look at his charts and have a conversation with him about, what he did well, whether there was harsh braking, whether he could do things better. So these are things, again, which you couldn't have imagined, some time ago, and it can be used in saving lives. So there are many, many different areas we can look at. There are also areas with customers where in our, we've got the oil and mining services business, and we've got a really nice piece of kit which helps us from a remote place. We can see what's happening to our product in an oil well, which is miles away, and when it needs replenishment, when we need to top up some of the chemicals. We can see the health of the machine that's being used by our customers, and we can manage it all remotely. As far as the customer is concerned, they don't even know we exist, because at the end of the month they just get a bill, and nicely they pay that. But it works really well. So these are kind of things that our industry is doing, but I think we have a long way to go, a lot of catching up to do. So when I finish, I just want to share with you a story that I heard from somebody called Sai Kiran from Flipkart. He was the supply chain head there. And he was sharing an example on how Flipkart actually transformed, changed the paradigm for e-commerce in the country. So the postcodes that are used in India, now forget about the cities, but in the larger landmass of this country, the postcodes are rubbish. They just don't work. And Flipkart had to remap them. They've remapped them all across the country. And they've even allowed things like, when you order something, your address could be platform number 1 of station such and such, this telephone number, I'll be there in 5 minutes. And that's acceptable. So it's a changed paradigm. And I think the learning for me there was, when you want to introduce transformation, digital transformation, don't use the environment as an excuse. Because when you hear people like this and you hear about innovative ideas, I think anything is possible. And that's a big learning for us. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Adnan. Like Dr. Raman, hopefully, 2 industry captains, 2 leaders can lead by example and hopefully, as I said, motivate the chemical industry to adopt this change, a lot of which will be spoken later by Puneet. I'd like to turn track to Ashish. The Asian Paints story of digital transformation has been a matter of both respect and awe for not only the paint industry, but the entire chemical industry. So we'd be very, very curious to know how has, if you could share some of the milestones in this journey, and I think it would be enlightening for the audience. Ashish?
Thanks, and I don't know whether if I get into milestones, it'll be much more than 5 minutes, right? So I'll try and keep it short. And first of all, thank you, Professor Sharma, for acknowledging what we did many years back in terms of getting in innovation through a color computer. I was not there in the organization at that time, but we still hear very fond memories of how our vice chairman, who's now Mr. Dani, who really brought in that technology into it. We're also very good users of the Nicer Globe initiative. I think that's a great use of technology in the transportation and safety sector. As I sit here, we are large consumers of the chemical industry. So on the front end, we are a lot, retail or FMCG, and on the back end, we are very large chemical users. So I'll try and just pick one or two areas where we really use digital, or I wouldn't say transformation, but techniques and areas where we're really working on. And I try to tend to agree with what Puneet was saying, that you really need to look at, there's so much out there. You really need to pick and choose what's really relevant. It has to be in line and sync with what the organization is really doing. So lately we've been transforming from a paint company or a coatings company to a home decor organization where we look at technology, getting more closer to the consumer. So that's something that we are reinventing in an organization, and that's where we really use some of the technology components, 3D visualizations, having, giving the consumer or inspiring the consumer to paint his house, which, if all of you know, is not a very good thing that you really want to do. So, try and inspiring color, looking at, making the process far more easier for, for the end consumer. So that's a lot of technology components. I just heard 5 days back, we've even introduced a chat bot which helps an end consumer to understand much more about the organization in a form which, as Adnan was mentioning, millennials will probably be more used to. So, you need to transform with what's relevant and what's as the organization moves. On the back end, on supply chain, we are very large. So there's a lot of challenge to get in efficiencies and productivity over there. Very early, again, a lot of innovation done on planning systems and forecasting, and that's an area which today is touted as analytics and really used to a large extent. And we do a lot of work out there. We are actually using social collaboration techniques into forecasting, because forecasting is not only about the forecast, but it's about the intelligence that goes along with it. Very much similar to what Chemark will try. It's not only about the data or the analytics, but the intelligence behind it. So how do you get the younger generation to really collaborate together? So that's something that we've been working on to try and get that intelligence into the forecast to be able to make it that much more intelligent. So that's something that we've been doing. A lot of work around, as my colleagues mentioned, around automation, trying to make factories far more automated, not just for manpower productivity. It doesn't justify at all, like you rightly said. Manpower productivity will never justify any amount of automation. Sustainability, health standards, really pushing those boundaries justify better automation and achieving that scale do. So those are the things that we really look forward, or we are investing heavily in. Lastly, I'll just touch one thing, and it's something that we really try to get on with, and maybe things like Chemark will really help us. I don't know whether to call it artificial intelligence, but it is really to look at intelligence on what is out there, and trying to make the buyer and the purchaser far more effective in the role that he plays on a day-to-day basis. Now, we've played around with some technologies over there, and it's just at the pilot stage of how you can really use some of the AI techniques to make our purchasers far more effective. Because you're assimilating so much of information that it's explosion, and you need to take a decision on a daily basis. So it's all about insight and trying to really put that into something that is actionable, intelligent. I don't know whether we'll ever replace people. That's never the objective, but you really make the process far more efficient for the buyers over there. So that's probably something very new that we are trying to attempt over there. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ashish, both for sharing your insights and also for actually brilliantly laying down the context of our very presence here as Chemark. Thank you so much. Professor Suresh, you're a representative of IIT Mumbai, who along with ICT, I dare say, are two of the premier institutions in India, at least in the chemical discipline. Now, we have all often lamented the coherence between the academia and the industry in terms of both being able to cross-pollinate ideas, business ideas, and finally, something translating into the commercial world. So we'd like to capture your views on how, a digital platform or digital transformation or forums like this could actually help, if at all they could help, in harboring a better industry and academia interaction.
Thank you. I think there's a great opportunity here for this cross-pollination that you refer to, but I'll come to it in a minute. I am from the academia, and I thought I was in a minority here, but with Professor Sharma being here, I don't think that is true. Let me look at this whole issue of digital transformation in the chemical industry from an academia point of view. I will look at it in two parts. First of all, what are the implications in general of the digital transformation? What does it facilitate? What responsibilities does it place on us? And so on and so forth. And then let me talk about a little bit on how does the digital transformation impact academia, industry, and the dialogue between the two. I think that's the way I would like to approach this. First of all, to take up the implications of the digital transformation in general, in some circles, there is a misplaced notion that the digital transformation and the information age places the knowledge at our fingertips. I don't think that is quite correct. What it does is it places information at our fingertips, and there is a difference between information and knowledge. You have to process information, do something with it, and then it becomes knowledge. You can do things with it. So this is worth remembering, because if you go out with the impression that, I get what I want at the click of a button, that replaces the need for education or, acquiring knowledge the more strenuous way. That is not so. There is a whole chain of information processing, and one link in that chain is information gathering, which has been greatly facilitated by the availability of information at the click of a button. But we have this notion of rate limiting step in chemical engineering. When several processes are linked up in series, the overall rate of the process is the rate of the slowest step. So you may have information at your fingertips, but if the other steps are rate limiting, then there is pretty little that you can do with that. So that's one element of caution. The second point is that the availability of all this information at the click of a button, as I put it, also places lots of responsibility on us as users. First of all, there is the responsibility to check the authenticity of the information and authenticity of the sources. Secondly, there is the responsibility to interpret and use the information in the most appropriate way in order to, as I said, create knowledge and create abilities with that information. Thirdly, to take advantage of the increased speed of access, this again comes back to the question of what limits the rate of the overall process. Our speed to respond to this information also has to increase. So in the chain of information processing, first of all, you should know, there is the first step is you should know what to look for, and then how to look for it, where to look for it. So these are the first steps. And then you go look for it, and that is the part where the availability of various search engines, very large databases, structured approach to information gathering, all of this will be a great help. And then once the information is there, you have to sift through the information, you have to make sense out of it, you have to find the needle in the haystack, if you will, and use that information to your advantage. So there are these various steps, and each of these is important, and each of these has to be speeded up if you have to make the most of the information revolution. The other thing that is sometimes a problem with the digital revolution is that there is a bit of an information overload. And there is so much information that is flowing to you all the time, and you are called upon to react. When somebody sends you an email about some problem you're working on, and he has a suggestion or he has a question, he expects an immediate response. So, this places some amount of pressure on you, and it will easily happen that you are most often reacting rather than acting. So this information is coming to you, you have to do something about it, and you are in that, in this kind of a rat race. And sometimes, thinking can become a casualty in all of this. You don't have time to ponder the long-term consequences or long-term projections of whatever you are engaged in. So this is something that, is a real danger with this. If you get caught up in this circle, you can lose sight of the slightly longer-term objectives. So these are some elements of caution. Now let me come to what the digital revolution means for the academia and for the academia industry interaction, which is a topic of great interest to me. There are obvious ways in which this access to information, increased or better access to information, faster access to information, facilitates scientific work. Obviously, you need, when we were doing our PhDs and so on, we used to have to go to the library, go through chemical abstracts. Every Friday was the time you spent 3 hours in the library to look at what has happened over the week and so on and so forth. That is no longer a necessity these days. Conversely, also, if I am not an information user, all of us are at one and the same time information users as well as information providers. So if I want to publicize my work, if I want to let the world know what is the current problem that I'm working on, and so on and so forth, that is so much easier these days, because apart from the time-tested channels of publication and patenting and so on, which themselves have shrunk quite a lot in terms of the time taken for things to appear in the press and so on. There are other methods, like you can have your personal blog where you talk about technical topics, your current areas of research, the developments that are happening in your lab, and so on and so forth. You can have your personal web page, and so on and so forth. Many publishing houses allow you to create short videos of the work that you are doing, that you have published, which will encapsulate nicely, because nobody also, because of this information overload, people have less and less time to go through in detail, technical publications and so on. So you can make it easier for people to encapsulate this whole thing in a readily assimilable form through short videos and so on. So these are obvious ways in which the scientific work is being facilitated. We often have to look for, I have a certain need, and I don't know, what is the technique, or what is the tool, or what is the equipment that will answer that need. Now I can get that information quite easily, and many companies, instrument manufacturers have these webinars, which are a great way. I've sat through some of these. And they explain a latest technique that has come on the market, on which, of course, their interest is to sell their instrument. But in the process, a lot of technical know-how gets transferred in a very easy way, in a very easy to understand way, over a short period. And so these are great ways in which technical work is facilitated. More importantly, collaboration becomes a lot more easier. In my own work, I have students who are being co-guided by people in other parts of the world. So we have weekly reviews of the work that is going on. Similarly, I have my PhD students who are jointly co-guided by, it's an industry-sponsored project. So there is a person from the industry who is interacting on the project, there is me, and there's another professor maybe in some other corner of the world. And it is so easy to have these kinds of conferences where, gone are the days where 6 months would elapse before we get to know what exactly has happened in the project, if you are not in day-to-day contact with the progress. That is no longer the case. So there is a great opportunity here. This brings me to this business of collaboration and dialogue between industry and academia. There is a great opportunity here which I don't think we are using to the fullest potential. There are many universities and institutes such as ours put their thesis and the patenting activity, the publications, they are all there in the open domain, in the public domain. So it is easy for people to find out what are the problems that are being worked on in any particular lab. If you have a particular need, you can pick out 5 institutes without too much trouble where work on that or related problems is going on, and then you call up the relevant person and then take it from there. So there are these kinds of opportunities, and the same for us, because for me, if I am looking for if I have an idea and I am looking for what industry could be interested in this kind of an idea, it is equally easy for me to get this kind of information, broad base my query so that a number of related industries can respond, and so on and so forth. So this is a great way to network and collaborate. Finally, let me talk a little bit about the other aspect of what we are involved with, which is, we interact with industry in terms of the projects we do from industry, the problems we solve for industry. We try to interest industry in our work, and we supply manpower to the industry. So let me address briefly that aspect, and then I'll close. Now that the information is so easily available, I think our approach to teaching also has to change a little, because previously it was the custodian of information was very much sought after. Now information is freely available. It is the ability to pull out the relevant piece of information at the required time and connect it with various other pieces that are playing a role in a particular discussion, that matters a lot. And it is this ability that we should try to, in my personal opinion, inculcate in our students. It is less of a need to transfer information. It is more of a need to transfer the technique of how to process that information. For example, as Professor Sharma pointed out in his talk, lots of changes are sweeping the industry, and the graduate of today, if he enters into the technological world, the world that he will see 10 years hence will be very different. And it will require different kinds of information, it will require different kinds of knowledge bases to deal with that situation 10 years hence. But at the base, the fundamental principles remain the same. The analytical tools remain the same. The way you look at a problem, in the way you decompose a problem into a high-level problem to a set of problems which are capable of being solved by a scientist at the bench. So these are techniques that are far more worth imparting to today's generation of students. And this is a change that is coming, but I still see that the academia is not changing fast enough in terms of orienting our students in the right way. So this is all I have to say about what this means to our business.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Suresh. We at ChemArc are extremely optimistic that we would be able to address some of the points, if not many of them, that have been raised by you, and more importantly, inculcate a culture both in the coming generation to adopt this technology and make for a more meaningful engagement with the core industry. Our last panelist, Sandeep, intentionally kept you last for 2 reasons. One is the cross-section of industries you have a engagement and visibility to is perhaps unparalleled. And also in your role as a venture capitalist, you metaphorically put your money where your mouth is. So it's probably the biggest endorsement or indictment of a technology, depending on how you choose to engage with them. So we'd be keen to capture your views on this as well.
Thanks, Dilip. So the first thing is I want to thank Dilip for making Puneet's dream come true. Puneet had this idea 17 years ago when he and I were working together at eVentures. And it has taken a long journey to come here. But Kemark, congratulations to both of you to make it happen. And I think he needed you and your industry sort of, expertise and background to pull it all together. So, I think that's a great sort of background to my view on what is the fundamental issue that one needs to address. And I think Professor Sharma said it very well when he made that point that when he puts a new sort of idea out there, the question that is asked is who else has done it in the other parts of the world. I think that is fundamentally about transformation of mindset. So the digital transformation that we can talk about, I think we have heard different parts of the industry and academia, consulting talk about the notion of transformation in different ways. I think the fundamental aspect of what we are seeing broadly in various industries. I think I've been investing now since 99, 2000. Has been around the transformation of mindset. So when Deep Kalra went ahead and said, we have to change the way you book tickets in India, that was a fundamental transformation, which obviously the ideas came from the US initially and so on, and then he adapted it to the Indian market. But from our standpoint as investors, we found somebody who really thought differently, right? He wasn't thinking about, how do I digitize what the travel agent does today? It was more around how do I change the way a person will book travel, when at that point, Indian Airlines and all these airlines didn't really have a digital booking system. The hotels did not have a way to actually, you didn't know if Taj had a room or not. You had to call somebody to make the room booking and so on. There was no digital booking system. If you wanted to book a car to go to someplace in Kerala, you didn't have that. So all these vacations that you had to create and so on, there was nothing there, right? So somebody had to go back and really think, given all the infrastructure constraints that I have, how do I create a digital platform? And so that was just the transformation. I don't think came as much from digital transformation. It was a mindset transformation. And I think what Professor Suresh said, I think was very interesting, that it starts with the students. It starts with the youngsters who think differently. So, we are all, I think we are way past. We can't change, we can't transform ourselves. We are the way we are. So our jobs as sort of people who are driving things, I think to your point, Mr. Ramchandran, is that we need to get this message across, what you just laid out over here, to the rest of the organization. There should be the young managers in your organization that should be listening to this, not us, right? We should not be here. It's they who will really make the transformation happen. And Kemark is one example of that. It's taken 17 years to make this a reality. I'm hoping that the next generation makes those changes happen much faster. And that's what we are seeing, for example, in retail, right? In retail, the organized retail did not happen in India. E-commerce happened faster. Because the problems that you saw with organized retail in terms of not enough footfalls for the rent that you were paying and so on, it just made so much sense for any person who was thinking about organized retail to think about e-commerce first. But Aditya Birla wasn't thinking that, right? When they set up More, they weren't thinking that. Harsh Goenka, when they were setting up Spencer's, wasn't thinking that, right? Kishore Biyani, when he was building out Big Bazaar, wasn't thinking that. It needed a Sachin Bansal to say, organized retail will not work because the cost of real estate is too high in India for the amount of value that is being created by that real estate. So you have to think about this in a very different way. People thought about it and said, logistics doesn't work in India. We talked about the PIN codes issue, right? They said, well, we'll solve it in some different way, but we'll solve it, right? So I think it's, again, going back to this notion of looking at things, ground up. Very specifically in the chemical industry, Professor Sharma made a very interesting point at the last of his thing around this whole notion of biosynthesis and so on. Now, obviously, I am not a chemical engineer. I am not nothing to do with biology either. My last class was when I was in 10th grade. But I met a couple, 2 weeks ago, who are actually synthesizing protein from methane, right? And I think that is something that is being taken quite seriously in various parts of the world. Calista is obviously the leader in that space right now. But to see these two people, this couple, who have chosen to come back to India and actually build this company out of India because they think that they have talent here, that they can actually eventually scale it here. But the most important thing that they did was they said it has to be done at a cost level which is relevant for India and for emerging markets. And I think that is a big, big element of what will make us different. All due respect to BASF, you're working in a global environment. You will take global practices and so on. But the entrepreneurs that are now building businesses are taking a very different sort of set of constraints and saying, how do I build businesses within those constraints? Whether it is, environmental constraints, whether it is, infrastructure constraints, whether it is talent constraints, whether it's, how much money is given to you. So they don't have the research budgets of, buying a supercomputer and so on, but they have to come to the same, they have to compete with you. And so we are seeing these entrepreneurs that are now looking at India in a very different way and saying, how do we build businesses that are relevant in the global context, but are using India in a very sort of, effective manner to build these global businesses. So on that front, again, outside of chemical engineering, I'll take an example from IIT Bombay. So one of your colleagues, Dr. Shashikant Suryanarayan, right? So he came to us 9 years ago and said, Sandeep, the biggest market for two-wheelers in the world is in India. Why is it that Bosch is the one that is selling all the equipment, all the engine controls to two-wheelers in India? Why isn't there an Indian company that has come up to do this? We have, talent in IIT. My, PhD students are designing things that potentially, they could be hired by Bosch tomorrow. But why can't we actually build a company that can compete with Bosch? And they have gone ahead and done that. So today, they are actually supplying their products and taking Bosch out of the market in the two-wheeler space in India. And that gives them the opportunity to then go global. So they are now going and talking to diesel genset manufacturers all over the world to actually provide them the engine control units. Right? So I think that's the opportunity, that's the digital sort of transformational mindset that we need to build. So with that, I'll sort of end.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sandeep. So as we come to the end of the panel, before I hand over back to Puneet for his concluding remarks, I'd just like to add to what you said, that in terms of Puneet finding me finding Puneet, however you look at it, I think all I'd like to say is that we found in each other someone who had of course, the passion. We call it passion. Many others look upon it as madness, but we are okay with that. And a keen desire to change the world and the space that we live in, particularly in our case, since the chemical industry, as I said, is our karma bhumi. I started off saying that, and I don't want to sound all platonic. Of course, it's a business for us, but it's also an opportunity for us to give back something to this business. So here we are, and we're here to stay. So I think the only point, again, before I hand it over back to Puneet, is there is, of course, we spoke about the madness, but there is a clear method in this madness also. And we will find our ways. We will find a particular logical series of steps to reach where we want to in our service to the industry through Chemark.com. And we, of course, look forward to your keen engagement in helping us with this. Puneet, I hand it back to you for your concluding remarks.
Before I make my concluding remarks, I have to firstly thank Ramesh. He changed his meeting in Hyderabad today to be here. Thank you very much for that. And he has another meeting and a flight to catch. So he has asked to be excused.
Please.
And thanks, Ramesh. Thank you for making it. Huh? Thank you very much. We'll talk again. Thanks. Okay, so thank you very much, all of you, for your comments and thoughts and remarks. And they're indeed very, very useful and helpful for us and for everybody else. I suppose here it's about a mindset change. It's about looking at things differently. it's about finding meaning in the universe, which is now kind of full of so many opportunities, so much information, and making sense out of it. But indeed, the opportunity is very real. And I would say that, look, in the chemical industry, and possibly in manufacturing in general, we have been incremental in our approach. Now, transformation needs getting beyond incrementalism. So therefore, it's not easy, and it has multiple issues that will be faced. But I mean, we do believe that whoever kind of challenges that, takes that challenge, will certainly lead in the future. So I would say that it needs to come, and it needs to come. So therefore, it's about choosing digital options, several of them. The more the merrier, the sooner the better as well. But that must start, I would say, with the leadership outlining a vision as to where they would be, say, over a period of time, depending upon their situations, what works best for them, etc. Then rolling out or devising or initiating a change management program. I think it has been stated in the panel that it's not just about the digital initiatives, it's also about how it will be made to work. And that change management program also is across the organization, which then chooses the right alternatives, then chooses the solution that is required, then chooses the vendor, then goes about execution, training, and the whole works with which real benefits can be done. Pretty complex, all this. And it's made even more complex by the fact that there'll be disparate elements. Somebody will do something, somebody else will do something, and they will not work together. And the silos have to collapse, and business systems have to all work together. So therefore, it's a complex system, and the way most people are approaching it is giving benefits for sure, but it has its own challenges. We believe that the solution is an all-encompassing platform. And let's imagine for a moment that you have a platform in which you have everyone who you need to deal with or connect with or contact with in doing business. You also have all the information that you need for taking the right decision, for making use of that decision, and applying it to applications. Then you have all the tools that can do document flow, information flow, cash flow, and all of that. It's all possible. Now, if you have that, and it's only possible on a platform, you could communicate on a one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many. It could be text, video, audio, whatever you like. Actually, all this can be at your fingertips. And I was in operations. I worked in the chemical industry for 16 years. I think this is what we need. And I also feel that we are at a stage in technology where it's possible. And I think a transformation will happen when we move to the platform economy. Otherwise, we'll have digital initiatives. Many of them, the forward-looking companies will do more, but they will face their challenges. But really, the transformation needs a platform, and Chemark.com is aimed aims to become that platform for the chemical industry. It needs content, it needs community, and it needs tools of many kinds to achieve all that you achieve on the cloud and with the technology, with a continuously improving technology. I think we are very close where we'll be able to generate, where you can get just everything that you need, for digital technologies. Our attempt, what Dilip and I and our wonderful team at Chemark.com are trying to do is to build that platform which will be comprehensive and which will solve everything. Let's say that's what we are aiming to do. We have taken the content and community route to begin with. We think the industry is ready to adopt that. It's very simple, and it's going to be very seamless. Whereas getting into business processes, there are multiple issues. In my work on B2B, we have seen that there are multiple genuine issues, even if there is intent and interest. There are difficulties. But we think if we start with content and community, and then understanding the needs, through technology. We are a technology company, and we would use technology to the hilt. We have a rock star technology team as well within the company. And with that, we think with the domain experience that we have within the team and what we'll build together, we are aiming to create that platform where you will be able to interact with everybody that you need to interact in the manner that you want to, when you want to. You will have all the information that you need to do what you need. You will have every tool that you need. Personalized, customized, or in a personal confidential way, or in a public broadcast. And that's what we have started to build. And that's what Kemark.com is. We do wish to play a role in bringing about digital transformation in a very comprehensive and holistic manner. Thank you very much. Thank you all. So I would also like to invite anybody to, if you have any questions, or if Dilip, if anybody wants to say something, or maybe we can take the mic there, or if you have any question for any of the panelists.
I'm just, sorry, since I'm the moderator, I'm just a bit concerned about the time because we are standing between the dinner and everyone else. We also have the pleasant task of showing you, unveiling formally Kemark.com, and also giving you a quick demo before we get on with dinner. So once again, Professor Sharma, if we could invite you to please step onto the stage and formally unveil Kemark.com. And thank you to the panel. It's been really wonderful sharing your views. Thank you. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Where is the click? I wanted to just make a remark in context of all. There is one peculiar need in India. One of the things one doesn't want to say in public, that all this digitalization, just like e-tenders, would eliminate corruption. Two, weakness which I found in chemical industry, particularly specialty chemicals, marketing is terribly weak. The information that you can load. Otherwise, I found many products whose market existed and useless marketing fellows just couldn't market. And some better marketing fellow comes and that goes into big volume. I would suggest that you look at both for purchase. Our purchasing is done as if by commerce graduates, not looking into how that chemical is made, what impurity profiles can come. They do mechanically. You need to do it more intelligently, which you can do by providing this kind of information background. Thank you. What I have to do? I have to click something. Dilip, Puneet, you just come close. You
just need to just click on that.
Which one?
Just click.
Okay, all right. Are you ready?
Yes.
Let's watch. I said it's pre-Ganpati day. Get rid of all the vignas. Well done.
Thank you once again.
Extremely
Thank
well
you
done.
so much, sir.
Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very well done.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And once again, the last part of it is to. Okay. So Puneet, if I could request you to stay back so that we can. Videos की बात करनी है. So if you can quickly go through a very brief demo.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes. So, eminent guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of our wonderful team at Kemark.com, I am very proud to present to you our web platform, Kemark. Let me call my colleague Saurabh Sinha, our CTO, to help me with the demonstration. Okay, so Kemark is the, currently the insights. Our initial offering on Kemark.com is insights and intelligence, and we have these 6 services that we are offering. We'll give you a quick glimpse of it, and later on our teams will come and meet you and explain all this in detail. The first is, let's go to the magazines. These are magazines that have served the industry for nearly 70 years, founded by Dileep's grandfather and kept in good shape since then by his father and then he himself. Paint India, Color Age, and Popular Plastics and Packaging. So Kemark presents to you the online version of these magazines. Can we go to the magazines?
The first is, let's go to the magazines.
Yeah.
These are magazines that have served
This,
the
on the home page, we have a glimpse of those. Next, we have News and Views. The magazines are monthly magazines which have served the industry for 70 years. News and Views is a 24/7 everyday update that we are making on News and Views.
So Kemark
So this forms the insights part of it, and we'll provide you cutting-edge, incisive content that will be helpful for the businesses. We also have a data section
next we have
in which we are going to provide you market data for price, which is prices of various materials. These are real-time prices, verified, and we have built arrangements with people who are actually doing the trade to bring to you the real prices at which goods are being traded. We have an import and export section in which we'll give you the latest import duties and other regulatory issues all the time, real time, and so when the notifications come and when changes happen and when the books become obsolete and they're of no use, you can find all that you need here there. We also have company data, and we have all the things that you may need in evaluating a company, be it a vendor or a customer or a business associate. You know, we would have financial data, we'll have company secretarial data, and we have legal data, ratings, and all of that we'll present to you on Kemark.com, which you can access very easily and without any difficulty. So this is the data section. And last but not the least, we have advertising where you can broadcast your message to a large community of very relevant people. You know, so our big strength is the 25,000 companies that we work with today as we start. These are subscribers of our very popular magazines, Paint India, Color Age, and Popular Plastics and Packaging. These are about 100,000 people who use it, decision makers, 100,000 decision makers, and we are deeply connected with that, and they will all be on the platform also using the online version. So we have an immediate opportunity of reaching out to 25,000 chemical companies doing a business of over 250,000 crores every year. So we have a very strong community that we are starting with. We are also going to rapidly grow this because in our work with the industry, we have found that there is immediate interest in engaging on content so long it's relevant and useful. So I think it's a great opportunity for you to reach your message to a very relevant and important segment that you may want to reach out to. So I'll quickly kind of run you through some of the details here without taking too much time. So let's go to the market data section. So in market data,
we'll have, let's say, we'll show you the Mumbai prices and we'll show you the China prices as of now. And we'll show you, the trends over a period of time, and you can see whichever data you want to see. We are also going to come up with an index in which we'll take, like the Sensex, we'll have aggregate prices which with weighted averages, which will give you the trends in set of materials, for CEOs who want to know what's the overall trend in, say, paints raw material prices, or what are the trends in dyestuffs raw material prices, they can get it very easily. But that's something which we'll roll out soon. Let's go now to the import and export section. So here, typically, those books are used, which are published on the 1st of April. On the website, you can get the latest details of those duties right away. So for example, on the example, this is acetone. Maybe let's put something else. Would you like to name any raw material that you use? Anybody? Would you like to just name any raw material that you use? Huh? What, so just come here.
Diallyl dimethyl ammonium chloride.
Okay.
Diallyl dimethyl ammonium chloride.
Say diallyl. Diallyl. No, double L. Diallyl. So if it comes in the other category, you'll have to put the HS code here, huh? Because this is picking up the name. So if it's in the other category in the HS code, you'll have to put the HS code for that. So is it there? Diallyl is not there. So just pick up any, just click on any other, say dimethyl aminoethanol. So
Could be.
Okay, put dimethyl. Okay, so dimethyl aminoethanol. So you can show that we have the duties, the duties, and also the country-specific and anti-dumping duty. Do we have? So there are anti-dumping duties on this material. So we have actually the entire chemicals mapped here, either by name or by the HS code. You will get the latest, and our technology is crawling and picking up the data every day and updating it every day. So any changes are captured. Now let's go to the company data, which is something which we have built, and we are very proud of it. Often we judge our vendors or everybody by the talk that the salesman does. And we should be knowing a lot more, and we can provide that information not only for public limited companies, but also for private limited companies and LLPs, any company in India. So we have, for example, if we take the name of any company, we can find the data about that. So let's try this time again. So maybe somebody can name a company, any Indian company, which is either private limited or public limited or LLP. Indophil. Okay, just put Indophil Industries. Indophil Chemicals Limited. Okay, so this is the data for Indophil Chemicals, and the directors. You can go to directors, and you can go to. It's Indophil Industries, huh? Okay, so this is the directors, and we have the detailed financial reports, and we can give it to you in any manner that you need. So this is on the on this. And just see a sample. Just can we see a sample? So this is the detailed report of some company. Just go down quickly. So again, now the site is live. You can all just go to chemark.com. You can register, you can ask your colleagues to register, and you can get all this information. Now, this is our first set of offerings. We are building many more things. Firstly, we'll bring you relevant content and all that, and then we'll provide more and more tools and all that for you to do business. Now, the important thing is also customization and personalization. So for that, if you were to just register and log in, can you just log in and okay. So, okay, so let's say, so it's logged in my name. So can you show me my personalized page, the feeds? Okay, so this is my feeds page. So rather than going through the whole thing, if I were to, okay. So I could nominate my interest. Let's say, I would say, I want to check dye stuffs. So just put dye stuffs. Or dye stuffs is there. So put pigments. Suppose I want to also see pigments. So pigments would be added to my interest, and everything relevant to pigments would start showing up. So you could choose your content and do that, and therefore customize your feed and see what you need to see on Camargue. You could bookmark it. Now let's open one of these. You could comment, you could share it privately, or you could share it on the public domain, and you could store, and you could reach out. You can access old issues, old information, all that you can do after you've signed in. Now let's see. Yeah. So also, you know, so therefore all those things are built in, and I think this can all be very useful for everyone. Lastly, you know, we want to show you. I'll just go to the home page. Okay. And you know, we have been broadcast. Is the broadcast on? Which one? So look, the kind of things that you can do on the web platform is that we are actually doing the live broadcast on the website. Now this could be one of your events. We have a captive community of the chemical industry. So the kind of things you could do in the space here is to broadcast your events and reach out to people that you need to. And of course, you can, our advertising is, or reaching out, or the broadcast of messages are like this. You can place your message here, and then you could have immediate immersion with your target audience. For example, you could take from here to an advertorial where you want to expand your message. You could take the interested visitor from here to your own website, or you could take the interested visitor to a space where you can sell materials, receive inquiries, and build relationships with the person who is interested in your ad. So for example, if you were XYZ Chemicals and you placed an ad here, somebody clicks on your ad here, you can present your company, your products, and you can kind of get an inquiry. You can ask, the person can send you an inquiry and you can respond directly. So I think you can immerse with a target audience, and you can do that. So that's what we have on offer for you now, and we'll be adding more and more services and offerings. So thank you very much. Thank you all for coming here, and please join us in having a drink and some dinner with us.
My pleasant task to propose the vote of thanks for the evening. I'll make it brief. Thanks to Professor Sharma in particular for sparing his valuable time and of course sharing his wisdom with us. Also the various panel members who not only came and shared their views with us. I must say that this program was put together at a very short notice, so it was also very kind of them to accommodate our requests at such a short notice. Likewise, for all of you who are here in attendance, I know some of you have, it's Ganesh Chaturthi time, it's Paryushan time, so people have come in even in the face of that. Yeah, sure. Yeah, and also some of you whom I know have landed from abroad just last evening, but nevertheless, in the face of all this, you have made it here braving the traffic. Thank you all, and all I can say is in lieu of all the kindness you have shown to us this evening and also all over all these years, we promise to make Camargue.com something extremely meaningful for the chemical industry in the times to come. Thank you, and we have Mr. Praveer Krishna, who's here. If he wants to say a few words, so I'd like to invite him. And once that's done, again the bar is open, and invite you all for that and for the dinner as well. Praveer.
Hi, good evening, gentlemen, and very few ladies. It's been a great pleasure watching this whole event fold out. And I can tell you it's a brilliant exercise. I work in the social sector, and like my name says, Praveer Krishna, I am Puneet's brother. But apart from being brother, I've been truly mesmerized by the presentations that have been going on. And I can think something big. I can really tell you that something big is on the anvil. And this is going to catch on. And I can tell you, Dilip and Puneet and his whole team have been working very hard, very, very hard, in fact, for the last couple of years. I can just relate to you one event. I was in Mumbai about 3-4 months back, and we chatted till late in the night, 12:30, 1:30, 2:30. We had coffee, then we went to sleep. And about half an hour later, I saw some clicking sounds next to me, and there indeed Puneet was there sending mails and working out some things which certainly had come to his mind, and he didn't want to miss it. So it's been taken, say, about two years of, almost 20 hours of work for this brilliant product, and I must compliment Puneet and Dilip and all his team who have been working really hard, very, very hard. And the product that we saw today was brilliant, to say the least. Well, I have some experience of working for change in the social sector. I work for the Government of India, and presently I work as the Managing Director of the tribal commerce that we are trying to promote in the country. And I wish I had a social arc or something like that which could tell me all the information that we need to have about the tribal products. I can tell you it's about 20,000 crores that are all these products in the jungles of the country which we need to bring to the forefront and sell to the whole world. So TriFed is the company I work for, TriFed is the company I manage, and I wish Kemar could diversify into a socially oriented information which we would like to have before we get into all that. I wish you all the luck, I wish you all the best, and I'm sure in very shortly, you'll be beating earlier, you'll be sort of getting a huge community together for the good of the industry and for the good of the country. My best wishes, and really all the effort that has been put on will truly come to fruit and show us a new path, and change that has to happen will happen. Thank you all, and thank you very much.